started.
Okay.
Hi.
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 Howdy.
So Justin?
Yeah, we're Archangel A.D. We're doing this to promote our CD coming out on January the 11th, I think it is. And yeah, so we're going to talk about each one of our top 10 albums that helped shape our lives. And I guess, Ed, you can start it off since you're over here on the edge.
Okay, these albums are not particularly in an order, but number 10, I'm gonna go with Pink Floyd, The Wall. And the reason why this is important to me, and like the reason, like the way it has shaped me, is because like when I first listened to this album, it kind of like coincided with the movie, and both the album and the movie had an impact on me in a way that, you know, it like opened my mind to like more, you know, kinds of art, I guess. Like in the movie, there was like a lot of weird imagery, and with that, while listening to the album just by itself, like I could imagine those things and like much more, and it kind of, you know, went on like that.
Okay, for me, my number 10 is Ragnarok by the band Tyr. This one was impactful on me because it, I don't know, just the way all the songs were written, I feel like they were almost composed classically instead of written like a regular like rock or metal band, like regular songwriting. They just feel way more intricate, and personally, I think it's like the best mixing and mastering I've ever heard on anything. It's a perfect album, and written by very, very talented musicians.
Alright, and for me, it would have to be Rubber Soul by the Beatles. And this album, it makes a huge impact on my life because it takes me back to going when I was a young age, when I was, you know, maybe like 5 or 6, hanging out with my grandparents, and when my grandpa would play this album and I would listen to it and I can hear John and Paul's voices and how they sing and harmonize, and the music was just so catchy to me, and it was very enjoyable listening to. And there's some songs that have lyrical meanings to it that can resonate with me during my high school years. So yeah.
Number 10 for me is Watching from a Distance by the band Warning. And it's hit me pretty hard because, I mean, everybody goes through pretty dark times, and that type of music is very depressing, I guess you could say. So where like it hits you hard and it gets you sad, and sometimes you want to feel that. So it's just a great album, really slow, heavy album, but it's also very melodic, which is, according to my list, very popular. I'm a very melodic kind of guy, so that's my number 10.
Before we move on, we forgot to introduce ourselves like individually. So I'm Justin Lopez. I'm the bassist and the singer.
I'm Edward Vera, drummer.
Was you?
I'm Roman Torres. I'm the new guy. I play rhythm guitar.
And I'm Jake Garcia, and I play lead
Guitar.
I mean, rhythm, lead.
Yeah, alright, anyways.
Okay,
So
number 9, I'm gonna go with, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Reguera de Blanc. It's by The Police. I think it's their second album. And I'm just gonna say it right now. I think most of the albums I'm gonna be saying after this, like they inspire me. Like the drum tracks inspire me. Like the drums on this album, I think are phenomenal, and one of the most like technical like pieces I've ever heard in music, and I really love that.
I didn't know you were into the Police.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Cool though. I mean, I like it.
Number 9 for me is Ghost Reveries by Opeth. I just recently discovered Opeth. I've known about them for a long time, but this guy started listening to them. He showed me a song, and I was kind of like blown away by it. And then I looked him up on my own, And the first song I heard was Ghost of Perdition off of Ghost Reveries, and then I just listened to the whole album, and I can't stop listening to it. It's been months now. So that doesn't happen to me a lot, and I just kind of got sucked in by this album, and I can't stop listening to it. So it's another one of those things where, like, everything on my list I consider to be like a perfect ensemble of music, a perfect collection of music, I would say. But this one, yeah, it's definitely like shaped my tastes in terms of how I want to write. So
Easy.
cool.
Yeah, for my number 9, I chose South of Heaven by Slayer. And this album really makes another huge impact on me because when I first heard this at a young age, I remember listening to from the first track to last, hearing the drumming, the power that Dave Lombardo has. And I know that there's this one song called Silent Scream. I think it's the second track, but ever since I heard that, it was just like, whoa, like I don't know how how this guy has all this stamina and energy to keep the fast pace going. But overall, it's always been one of my favorite thrash albums, or overall albums in general, because I listened to it at such a young age, and just the way the music and the arrangements have been put together has been pretty solid. So it's always opened up my ears and made me listen to a whole different variety.
My number 9 is Toxicity by System of a Down, and the only thing I can pretty much say about it is that it's super heavy, it's really great, and that's my childhood. I just remember, going somewhere with my dad, probably going to like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video to rent games, and
Oh, dude, Hollywood Video.
yeah, right, and listening to Toxicity at full blast. It just gives me good memories, and it's good vibes all around. So
Playing Chop Suey in church.
oh yeah, I sang Chop Suey in church once. Oops, it's fine. I totally forgot about that story. Go ahead.
For number 8, I'm gonna go with Rush's "A Farewell to Kings." Now, much like the drum track in this album also brings back memories of my dad and I, going to Best Buy and going to record stores or whatever, and buying CDs to listen to, like when we're on our way to, do stuff. And I remember buying a lot of Rush albums, but "A Farewell to Kings" in particularly was, I think, the best one that I've listened to from the ones that I've went and bought. And Cygnus X1 is great. I love it.
Beautiful song.
For me, my number 8 spot would have to go to Nightfall by Candlemass. I discovered Candlemass when I was in high school. Me and my friend went on a trip to Austin on a whim, and we went to Waterloo Records, and I just, whenever I go there, I always just kind of look at like album covers. I always try to find something new to buy, and I saw this Candlemass, and I heard about them before, and I just kind of I was like, oh, that looks really cool, I'll give it a try, and I bought it, and I listened to it, and it kind of just formed my love for doom metal, because I'd have to say my favorite genre of all the metal genres is doom, and Candlemass just hits that super sweet spot with, the operatic vocals and the crushing, like kill everyone riffs, it's just, Candlemass is sublime. So yeah, Nightfall by Candlemass.
Says the thrash metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I front a thrash band, but if I had a choice, I'd be in a doom band.
Nice. All right, for my number 8, I'm a huge Dio fan. I love Dio. I've been into Dio since probably I was like in 2nd grade. But the Last in Line. Remember, my dad, he would, we would go cruising, I don't know where to, but he would play the CD, and the first track, We Rock, and then the second track, Last in Line, with the guitars, and when it kicks in, and, Dio's, he sings his heart out. It's just always, it's still fascinating to listen to, because it's like, the way how they put together the writing and especially the lyrics. Dio has always been straight in his messages. Like the last song, Egypt, the chains are on. I think that has to be my favorite track too. And that album and Dio himself as an artist, will forever have a special place in my heart. So yeah, I have to go with that one. Number 8.
My number 8 is Loudspeaker by Marty Friedman. More melodic stuff, shocker. But like, Marty shaped my guitar sound. He's who I want to sound like all the time now. All the time. In the beginning it was Kirk from Metallica, but I mean, props to Kirk. Kirk's a great guitarist, but I wanted to keep going somewhere new, and Marty always brings something new to the table, and that's what Loudspeaker does. It varies from melodic to super crazy fast riffs to really slow riffs like Stigmata Addiction, tongue twister. And then he brings in Steve Vai. Steve Vai's on that record, and he's another one of the greats on my top 10, I think, for guitarists. And he's on Viper, and the whole record just kills, and it's just a great album.
Sounds interesting. I didn't know Steve Vai was.
Yeah, Steve Vai was on it, dude. He fucking rips.
Nice.
All right. Number 7, I'm gonna go with E-Vile's Skull. The reason, the way I was introduced to this album was by Justin, and I didn't really listen to a lot of thrash metal bands back when he introduced me to this band, and when he did, like it was amazing. And I think my favorite song off there is probably Outsider, but second to that is Tomb, and that's like more of how do you call it?
It's like a power ballad.
Yeah, a ballad, and it's amazing. And of course, again, the drum track, it always gets me.
So for me, my number 7 is also Skull.
That's awesome. That's what I said. So he was like, fuck.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I found Skull when I was a freshman in I found Evil when I was a freshman in high school, and it's kind of funny because I was looking for I was desperate for new Metallica songs, and I saw this one called The Darkness, and I clicked on it, and it sounded like Metallica, but it sounded more refined and a bit more, I don't know, they were just cleaner, and the guy sounded like James, but he didn't at the same time. And then I looked in the comment section, and everyone was like, this isn't fucking Metallica, this is Evil. And I was like, what's Evil? So I looked him up, and the first album I heard was Five Serpent's Teeth, and it just blew my fucking mind. And I fell in love with them and everything that they were. And then Skull came out in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was a junior in high school, and it just it blew me away. It was fast, it was heavy, it was melodic, it was everything I want to hear. And they even had slow shit too. It was everything I wanted to hear on an album. And I'd have to say Evil, just personally, is within my top 5 favorite bands. But Skull is it just made me want to be in a thrash band as much as I want to be in a doom band. It made me want to make a thrash band. And my favorite song is definitely Words of the Dead. Just the syncopation and the hemiolas and all that crazy shit that happens in that song. I don't know how the hell they play it, but I've seen them do it, and it blows my mind.
All right, my number 7, I chose Ozzy Osbourne's No Rest for the Wicked. I know there's Ozzy fans that's not Randy Rhoads was, he was a man, and all this stuff, and then they have, other Ozzy fans where they No More Tears and stuff. But I remember listening to this one, it really helped me develop my chops, especially, listening to Zakk Wylde's guitar playing and Randy Castillo's drumming as well. And this album has been really special to me because from first to last track, it doesn't get tiring for me to listen to. I keep the album in my car CD player, and I would be there for about a week, and and I would have to change it to something else. But I feel like this album has showed a little dark side of Ozzy, and because of what the music sounded like that he brought with Zach Wild, and it's just so fucking awesome, and you know, it's definitely a good jammer. So,
Is he okay? Is he back on tour?
Ozzy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he
in
is?
his second
He
run.
is already? Oh, okay. But I haven't heard about it. My number 7 is Damnation by Opeth. More depressing stuff. But the album is so good, like, just to say the least. Like, it's just good, dude. Like, it's also melodic. I just really have nothing to say, really. Like, it's a tough.
It speaks for itself.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's
Thanks.
not. It's the only album where they don't have distorted guitars, I think. Or no, they do. It's the only album, the first album that didn't have growls.
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
But
And that was the double with Deliverance, right?
Deliverance
So
and
like
Damnation, yeah.
that's my go-to, I think, in terms of Opeth records,
Mhm.
just because it's so good, and they show all the diversity with the scales and just
It's just easy
it's
listening.
just good. It's just good. It's
Yeah.
chill. It's chill music. You can just drive to at night or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
just good.
It's good rainy day music.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
When it gets cold and shitty, it's great to listen to.
That's what you want to listen to.
All right, number 6. I'm gonna go with another Opeth album like him, and then Ghost Reveries. He mentioned it before. Kind of like him, I was like just introduced to Opeth this year, in the summer particularly, and
When we went on tour, that's all we
Went on
listened to.
tour,
yeah. And this album's really important to me because during that time I was, I wouldn't say going through a hard time, but I was kind of like internally conflicted, you know, on a certain situation that was going on in my life. And I think that album really spoke to me, and it helped me rethink about those things that were going on, and you know, and I appreciate that from this album. And you know, other than that, I love the growls. I was never really like a person who listened to death metal,
Same.
but Ghost Reveries, like, yeah,
Michael Ackerfeld's
yeah.
since he has that like baritone low voice, when he does his growls, they're low. They're not like wimpy and high and like gross. He has these low like
It's just natural.
rumble the earth growl.
I
It's
saw a comment somewhere on YouTube while listening to that record. It said that he sings like an angel, but growls like a demon,
great. Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
perfect example of what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great album.
Number 6 for me would have to be Horowitz's favorite Chopin collection. I'm a huge classical music fan, and for me, it doesn't get any better than Chopin. Chopin is he's the greatest musical mind who ever existed, in my personal opinion. And I just remember putting this on when I was going through a really hard time in like high school, and like Chopin, it just spoke to me, you know. It really helped me develop my I think it helped refine my musical taste, because Chopin has such a wide variety of like musical styles and elements that he incorporates into his music, because he has the melodic, pretty like slow stuff, then he has the crazy, like, he was like the first like doom metal musician, you know, with his Sonata number 2, third movement, the Funeral March, you know, bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum 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 bum. That was him, you know. That's metal as fuck. And then he has this crazy fast like shreddy stuff. Like, you can pretty much find every genre of metal in his Sonata number 2.
Influence.
But like, it's, you know, I don't know. If I talk about Chopin anymore, I'll probably start crying or something. Yeah, I just Chopin for me is my number 1 top favorite musician or artist, but
Just wait till
he's
we
not
get
my
to-
favorite like band. Obviously, he's not a band. So I have like different levels of music, the way that I categorize things. But yeah, Chopin, fucking
Cool. Alright, for number 6, mine would be Signals by Rush. And I remember this vividly because this was the first album I ever listened to by Rush. It takes me back to when I just got out of work at Whataburger around like 11:45 p.m. My grandpa picked me up, and it was just me and him because my family, they were out of town, they were partying and stuff. So it was just me and my grandfather at home. So we were home drinking some beers, and I noticed he had a really good amount of vinyl collection. And so I was like, you know what, let me go see what I can listen to so we can start off the new year. And then I found Signals by Rush, and I was like, interesting. So I put on the first side and second side, listened to it in its entirety, and it's just a very beautiful album and definitely a good sound for 3 guys. And and it also makes me think, like, how can a guy play keyboards with his hands and his feet and sing at the same time? Like, I'm pretty sure there's some musicians out there, but Geddy Lee, he has a really good use into that. And in that album, it will take me back, it was the new year, I listened to this, and I remember listening to the 3rd track called Chemistry, and just, ever since, like, I listened to it, like, I knew that I'm gonna be a huge Rush fan. And this past year, I've been listening to different albums and going through, like, different phases. But yeah, this is definitely one of my personal favorites.
Have you seen them yet?
Rush? No, dude.
No?
Never seen it. Wish I had.
Yeah. You'll get there.
No, they retired.
They'll come back.
just for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They'll put on a private show
For
just
sure. For sure. My number 6 is Rust in Peace by Megadeth. Masterpiece.
Of
Masterpiece.
course.
I don't. Never mind.
It's a masterpiece. It's some parts of the album is a little tough to get by. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a lie. But the whole album, I mean, you got Tornado of Souls, probably one of the best metal songs, including one of the solos.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the best metal solos of all time, at least in my opinion, or also their opinion.
Holy Wars.
Holy Wars, also fucking stupid. There's so
Take
many.
No Prisoners.
It's
Take
like
no
a holy
prisoners.
shit song.
Yeah.
Like, what the
Holy
fuck,
Wars
how
stands
did
for
they-
holy shit. It's just, it's so great, dude. Like the whole album, Take No Prisoners, Five Magics, everything. Like
Hilarious.
Hanger. The solos in Hanger, dude.
Pretty
It's
fucking
just-
mind blowing. Like,
It's just amazing. And I don't even remember when I discovered that album, but when I heard the whole thing, like, fuck, dude. I was like, all right, this is a turning point for me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Ed.
All right. Number 5, Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here." The reason why this album is important to me is because it reminds me of it kind of like shows me. It shows me how simple like riffs and simple drum tracks can make something like so beautiful. Like "Shine on You, Crazy Diamond." Like, all that stuff is like really simple, but with the inclusion of the the synthesizers and the keyboards and all that other stuff, like it makes it like an amazing, an epic song.
I think with a lot of simplicity comes a lot of complexity too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Definitely.
because if you make something simple, like you also have to make it interesting, and that's in itself like hard to do. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that
Yeah.
they master.
Yeah, and like this is probably between this and like The Wall, like these are probably like my top 10 or top 2 like Pink Floyd albums.
Well, yeah, obviously.
They mean they mean a lot to me, and I love them.
Number 5 for me is CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, the very first album from them. I remember a couple summers ago, I was showing my mom some of my favorite music, like Evil, Black Sabbath, Metallica, just showing her like a variety of things. Pretty much a bunch of the stuff that I've mentioned already. And she was like, well, let me show you something from when I was a kid, stuff that I used to listen to. And I was like, okay. and she showed me Chicago 25 or 6 to 4. And I was like, oh yeah, I know that song. I used to play that song in band. And she's like, well, let me show you some other stuff. And she showed me like, does anybody know what time it is or
Make Me Smile.
or Make Me Smile?
Introduction.
Yeah, like Color My World.
Big Chicago fan.
You know, just all the big like classics, or the classics when Terry Kath was alive. And so like I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, how have I never like why did I never listen to this before? Then I went, and whenever I get introduced to a band, I always go to the first album and I listen through to it all the way. And I listened to that first Chicago album, and it fucking rocked me to the core. Like, that doesn't happen. It does, like I said with Opeth, it doesn't happen to me often. But last year, what I'm doing with Opeth right now is what I was doing with Chicago. I couldn't stop listening to it.
Whole year.
It took me, yeah, it took me a year. It took me basically till I found Opeth to stop listening to Chicago.
But he still listens to it.
And I still listen to Chicago all the time. I have like 2 Chicago CDs in my car right now that I just kind of like loop. But yeah, Chicago Transit Authority, Terry Kath, Bobby Lamb. I mean,
Lee Long, I think that's his name.
oh, Lee Laughlin,
Lee Laughlin, Walter
Parasiter.
James Pinko, Robert Lamb.
They have a lot of members.
Peter Cetera.
Peter Cetera we could do without, but he was a good bass player, goodish bass player. So you know what? I never cared for his singing. I don't really care for his singing.
Well, I remember listening to I'm a Man and seeing Terry Kath, you know, like he's singing first, and then after that, when he takes a break, and then you know, watching the video, and then like the guy singing, like, who the fuck is that? But it's that guy, the bassist, Peter Cetera. And when I saw that, I'm like, these guys, they're motherfuckers.
I just lost respect for him because I've seen that video and he wears a fucking choker. So
I didn't know that. But hey, Introduction is a pretty solid piece.
Introduction, I'd have to say, or is it Introduction or Beginnings?
The first song.
The first song. There's
something like that.
There's one song on there. I can't believe I can't remember the fucking name of the song either. It's Listen. That's a fucking great song. And South California Purples. Man, that shit just, it's great. Terry Kath was doing shit that people didn't start doing till the 80s. And he was doing it in the 60s. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree with him.
So you have 2 like non-metal albums pretty much?
I have,
so far you have 2.
Hey, don't spoil it.
Oh, I know, but I'm just like...
Yeah, two non-metal albums, yeah.
I just have all metal albums, like, it's crazy.
That's cool. Alright, for my number 5, it would have to be Death Angel, Act 3. Death Angel is one of the thrash metal bands that, you know, grew up in the Bay Area, next to like Metallica, Exodus, and Megadeth and stuff like that. But they're real underground, and that band, they were really interesting because you know, based on research, all of the members, they're all related. Well, the singer, he's like somewhat a distant cousin, but from what I've been told, but the 4 members, Rob Cavastani, Gus and Dennis Peppa, and the drummer Andy Gallion, they're all cousins and they're all Filipino. And this album, Act 3, this was their 3rd album that they released, and this could have been a huge big break for them because I heard about this tour called Clash of the Titans in 1991, and it was supposed to be Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, and Testament, and Death Angel. They were going to be the opening act, but they ended up getting into a bus accident, and the drummer, you know, he got injured really bad, so they had Alice in Chains replace them. But, you know, it kind of, you know, makes me, you know, wonder, like, I listened to this album, and it's like, you know, what if they, you know, would have kept their career going, and, you know, what other, you know, music they could have bring to the table. But this album, it takes me back to high school, and, you know, like dealing with, you know, all the bullshit and all the preppy kids who...
High school's rough when you're a metalhead.
Yeah, I mean, especially when everyone is in class listening to, you know, Wiz Khalifa or something like that.
Now it's definitely hard because people listen to that shit, yeah.
When I was in high school, people were in it was the high times of, like, Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated in 2014, so I actually don't remember because I wasn't paying attention. But because I was always listening to my own fucking music and.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
I agree. But Act 3, just listening to the quality of the music, it would kind of make me get lost from reality, and kind of put me in a special place, knowing that everything is like just to be positive and just kind of have the attitude like these guys and keep going and keep rocking. And the drummer Andy Gallion, I know in the first album, he was 14 when he played the drums, and it's like, what the fuck, like, that's, it's awesome, to know that there's young kids like that, especially during that time of that generation that, was still making music. And there's this one song in Act 3 called Discontinued that all of the members, they have credits to writing, and it has a combination of funk and metal, and it's just a great track, and, definitely takes me back to high school.
What was the name of the band, the local band that we played with that had a 14-year-old drummer that was like fucking killer? Was that Plague?
Yeah, that was
It was Plague? Dude. Plague's good. I like Plague. Okay. Sorry. Number 5 is Five Serpents' Teeth by Evil. I think, like Ed, Justin showed me Evil because I wouldn't have been able to find them by myself. But Five Serpents' Teeth is just heavy as hell. And I think I sound like a broken record because that's what I say for every single one that I've said so far. But this one's a little different in terms of like all around heaviness. Like the singer's voice, what's the singer's name?
Matt Drake.
Matt Drake, there you go. The singer's voice is just so powerful that it's like, fuck, dude. Like, it makes you want to punch somebody in the face, this record. The whole album is pretty melodic, and I think that's why it puts Five Serpents' Teeth. No, I think that's why it puts it over Skull.
Yeah, Skull is definitely way more like
Skull's raw. It's
raw anger, and Five Serpents' Teeth is more like refined and melodic.
That's definitely why I like
more
it.
Time like writing and
Figuring it out.
Yeah,
for sure. And Five Serpents' Teeth really does it for me. Fucking Centurion.
Oh, that's
fucking
Centurion, In Memoriam.
Zariah is probably my favorite.
Origin of Oblivion.
Nice. Yeah.
I think the riff and Origin of Oblivion, like
they're all just so fucking great. Is that
gives me the goose pimples.
Is that the one? Eternal Empire.
Yeah.
Eternal Empire is fucking great. And all the solos.
What's it? Cult.
Yeah.
Heavy,
dude,
slow
like,
track.
If someone like Marty Freeman didn't exist, Old Drake would probably be the person I'd go for, dude, because
that guy is crazy.
He can rip, and he's very talented. He's fucking great. He's great.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, Havoc's Conformicide. What?
I just looked at my list and it goes 1, 2, 4, 3.
Yeah. Havoc's Conformicide. This one was actually released last year, and I was anticipating this album for like 6 months or something. Like, I couldn't wait for it to come out. And when they released the single Ingsoc, like, I just like couldn't believe that album. Like, the drum track on that song, sorry, not album.
Pete Weber is hell of a drummer.
Yeah, Pete Weber. Oh my gosh.
That guy's like Nick Shindiklios or whatever his last name is.
Shindiklios.
Yeah, the bassist.
That guy's
amazing.
a fucking monster. They're all monsters. Reese Scruggs, Dave Sanchez, all of them.
All of them. And yeah, listening to that song and then the rest of the album, I think it made me grow as a drummer during that time.
Well,
and
I remember you listened to that album for like a month straight, and you just, I don't even know if you were practicing. I think you just absorbed the album and just got
that information.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you were like a
got
sponge,
better.
bro. And
Yeah.
just all of a sudden you busted out some stuff, and I was like,
yeah, I was
where
like,
did this come from? Like,
has he always been able to play like that? Or?
Yeah, I really appreciate that album, and it's badass. Love it.
Okay, number 4 for me is Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Just like Roman, I'd have to say, like, my favorite metal vocalist of all time, the king of heavy metal, the god of heavy metal, is Ronnie James Dio. Like, you can't get any better than him. Like, even when he was dying from cancer, that motherfucker was still going as hard as he could, and he was still singing better than 100% of all other metal vocalists. So, I mean,
He's a pretty humble guy too,
yeah, he was super humble.
from what I heard.
Like, he was nice. He took the time to talk to like almost everybody he met, and he would remember people too. Like, I've seen like many different accounts of like people who had one-off encounters with them, and then they'd see him later, and he'd be like, "Hey, I remember you. You did this, this, and this," and they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, like you remember me? Holy shit!" Just, I'm ashamed that I only found out about Dio after he had passed away. And I mean, I did know about him before, but I didn't fall in love with him until after he passed away. So I never had the opportunity to like even want to go see him live or anything like that. So
I would shit my pants if something like that happened to me. But like, if someone like Marty remembered me, shit my pants, bro.
Like, for me, Dio, like, he's who I aspire to sound like. I know I have more of like a bark sometimes in the vocals that I'm doing, but the end goal for me is to sound like Dio. Like, that's definitely who I want to sound like vocally. But yeah, Heaven and Hell with songs like Children of the Sea, the song Heaven and Hell. What's the last song on the track, on the album? The one about death, where he's the last one alone in the universe. Like,
You don't know that one?
I know it, but I can't remember the fucking name of the song. I'm on the spot.
He's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Well, then what is it?
I might tell you.
Anyways,
She goes
yeah.
to another school.
Heaven and Hell, Dio. Sabbath Dio is better than Ozzy Dio. I'm just gonna say that. That's where I. Closing points.
That's where everybody clicks X on the interview. And they're just like, fuck these guys.
That was a waste of 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
40 minutes?
Yeah, we're
so
already
far.
at 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Wow. All right. When my number 4, I'm gonna go old school, and it's gonna be "Ride the Lightning" by Metallica. Well, this album, like you know, I'm pretty sure these guys can agree. Like, it's just a very powerful album with, like.
Oh, hold on, sorry. Is that your next one?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna chime in with you here because
Okay, I'm gonna chime in for this too. My top 3 are all Metallica albums. So
Okay.
basically, what he's saying here, so we can finish this
we're
video.
we're on number 4, right?
Yes.
You're on number 4. My number 4 is also Ride. That's why I said keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. So go.
Yes. All right. So, anyways, "Ride the Lightning." I know, like, you know, there's some songs in it that I remember. You know, when I got the album, my grandma, she bought it for me at the at the mall. She didn't want to at first because, you know, she was like, this is horrible music and stuff. But I remember Master of Puppets was the first CD I ever bought with my own money, and I want to continue, you know, my collection of Metallica CDs. And so she bought it for me, which was only like $8. And I remember we went into the car, and, you know, and I put it in, Fight Fire with Fire. And, you know, the classical guitar, you know, everything is nice, smooth, very pretty. And then I remember, I'll never forget, my grandma was like, "Oh, this doesn't sound too bad at all." And then I turned it up all the way full blast. And then when the music kicks in, like, you know, and from there, like, I remember my grandma, she's just driving. She's like, "I shouldn't have never touched that."
She has
You
that
know?
face.
But I was in 7th grade. And, but yeah, like, it's a fucking classic, a true classic.
Ride, my number 4. It's so good. It's so good. My favorite one is my favorite song is what I mean is Ride the Lightning, definitely. The whole solo section, fucking beast.
It's so
He's a
weird
beast.
too, cause like me, in my opinion, like when I listen to "Ride the Lightning," I can be in my bed, you know, like closing my eyes and have my earphones in, and like listening to it, like it just sounds like, you know, if it's like, you know, like if it's actually lightning, You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if it's raining or
It's
something,
very, yeah,
like
it's very.
it just fits.
It fits,
in the
yeah.
mood.
I remember in high
She
school,
fits.
like, iTunes had a counter on how many times you've listened to a song. And all my like iTunes or whatever, like my all my songs were usually around like 2,000 to 3,000. But the album Ride the Lightning
I had like 50 on mine. Like,
and,
shit, dude.
and the song Ride the Lightning, the album was like at 10,000 and the song Ride the Lightning was at like 12,000
Jeez.
listens.
Wow,
So I
wow.
spent a lot of time listening
And
to
I
Ride the
think
Lightning.
I think a lot of people
Wowzers.
kind of forget about Escape.
Escape is a good
Escape
song,
is a
even
great
though it's a
song.
throwaway song.
Yeah.
Like they didn't care about it, but I think it's a great song.
My favorite song, personally, off that album is Trapped Under Ice.
Me too.
It's just so fucking brutal.
Me
Uh,
too.
Like, I love it
Trapped
so
Under
much.
Ice or Fight Fire with Fire, but you know what? I had to choose Trapped Under Ice.
I would say the best thrash song ever written is definitely Fight Fire with Fire.
the
like-
harmony section.
Like, there's just something about that
Stupid.
song. Like, yes,
Awesome.
there's so many like brutal thrash songs or like amazing thrash songs, but the quintessential like formula for writing a thrash song, I think, comes from Fight Fire with Fire.
Mhm.
Like that is the epoch, the epitome of thrash music.
And for whom the bell tolls,
Yeah, like
The bass.
the bass.
For the
But
band.
especially what is it? Day on the Green, when he
Oh,
does
yeah.
like all that
Oh, the
fucking
solo
crazy
and-
shit,
yeah.
yeah,
dude.
fucking Call of Cthulhu.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Yes.
Call of Cthulhu
Like,
is
I'm gonna change
great
it and
song.
say Call of Cthulhu is my favorite song. I'm sorry.
Ride the Lightning's my favorite.
Red Lightning's your favorite? Yeah.
Hey, what-
I mean, it's a toss up, dude. For me, at
and
least.
then
'Cause
Creeping Death. and-
Creeping
Yeah,
Death,
Creeping Death.
the down picking.
I like a live version better.
Which one? Creeping Death?
Creeping Death.
What,
It's
like
still-
how
it's
how
still
live?
good.
Like how recent live?
Oh, like Mexico City, 1990s.
Oh, okay. So not. No.
It's
Still
just-
good.
it's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
a
yeah,
great
it's still
album.
good.
I don't know if you want to go next already.
Oh yeah.
sure.
Shit. Well, I mean,
Number 3.
mine was. Okay, never mind. Okay, number 3. Rest in Peace. I started listening to this album a lot when I actually first started playing drums, and I think Nick Menza's work on that album like really inspired me to go faster and to go, you know, I guess more technical. But back then I wasn't really that much technical. But yeah, and Holy Wars. I've always known about that song, and Hangar 18, and they were just really great, quintessential thrash songs. And yeah, it means a lot to me.
Okay, so for me, my top 3 albums are all Metallica albums, so I'm just gonna get them out
Get
of the
'em out
way,
of the way.
so that way we can finish this video up. Number 3 is Kill 'Em All for me. Number 2 is Master of Puppets, and number 1 is Ride the Lightning. As you can tell, I talked about it a lot. Number 3, Kill 'Em All. That was the
Yeah,
third
mine.
Metallica album I ever bought, but I remember listening to it. It was so different from Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning. Like, it felt like a completely different band when I heard it. Like, but there's just something about like the raw energy in that album that just, it really brought something out in me that like it made me want to be wild, even though I'm like the most docile person ever. Like,
Pretty much all of us are, except for him.
yeah,
You're the wildest of the group.
yeah.
Yeah, might try to control it.
And I don't know, like, Metallica is my favorite band of all time, and I would have put all their albums as my top 10, but I obviously, if I did that, I would have just looked like a fucking douchebag, so I didn't do that. But yeah, Kill 'Em All. It's great. It helped shape. It's so raw. It helped shape me. Master of Puppets was the first Metallica album I ever bought. I was in 5th grade, and I bought it with like birthday money or something. I don't even remember, but I remember them taking me to fucking Hastings of all places.
Yes.
And
Hastings.
I got that Master of Puppets album.
Okay, so it was a bookstore.
And I don't know, I'd never heard anything like that ever in my life, because I had found Metallica through a fucking Flash video game on the computer when I was in 3rd grade,
Wow.
but I never knew what they were. I never knew what it was, because it didn't have the music credits and like the credits of the game, And then a couple years later in 5th grade, my stepdad, I described to him what I was trying to find, and then he was watching MTV Headbangers Ball or something, and Enter Sandman came out on MTV, and that was the song, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been looking for all this fucking time.
They fucking hated doing that, though.
Yeah. And then I showed I showed my brother, and he's like, oh yeah, I know what this is. And then he went on LimeWire, downloaded a couple songs.
LimeWire.
Yeah,
fuck, dude.
This was a long time ago.
We're going back here.
He downloaded a couple songs. He downloaded like Blackened, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, I think Dyer's Eve, Enter Sandman, The Unforgiven, and I think that was it. Like, he just made like a very small little like CD for me to listen to, and I would listen to it all the fucking time. But I remember my favorite song off that little CD being Master of Puppets. So when I found the album, and Battery, and I only knew Battery and Master of Puppets, but I was like, you know, this is enough for me. So I bought the album and I listened to it all the way through, and it fucking changed my life. Like, I immediately was like baptized as a metalhead at that point, you know, like it changed who I was, because I would always listen to jazz and blues with my parents and stuff, and like old classic rock, but it never hit the spot that I wanted. I always wanted something that went faster, something that went heavier. Like, I wanted something more intense. I always remember my favorite songs always being like Help by the Beatles, because that was just so much more intense than all the other Beatles songs, you know?
Intense.
Like,
The Beatles, bro.
and I always liked what was Smooth by Santana. I would listen to that song on repeat, because it was just, there was something a little more sinister about it than all the other Santana songs, and yeah, like that's just, I always wanted something more, and then I finally found Metallica, and it fucking changed me. And then the second album I ever bought was Ride the Lightning. I was in 6th grade, and I became enveloped in it. I could not stop listening to it.
Yeah,
it absorbed me.
I couldn't stop listening to it when I got it in 7th grade. Like, that was the epitome of my middle school years.
Yeah.
I had the shoes.
Yeah.
I had to Ride the Lightning shoes.
Wow.
The Converse.
Really?
Dude, yeah, they were fucking amazing.
I didn't know they made those.
Yeah, dude, they made the Ride ones and Justice ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, Justice.
They were cool as fuck. The Justice ones were less cool because they were white, so it was like really hard to keep them clean. You know what I mean? But the fucking the Ride ones were.
Anyways, yeah. So that's my last 3. So I'm done now.
Yeah. All right, well, my number 3 is going to be AC/DC, Power Ridge. AC/DC was probably like the first like hard rock, you know, close to, like, I mean, I know AC/DC is not metal, but it's kind of close to that, because it was, you know, they were, you know, they started it off in the 70s and whatnot. But my parents, they got this DVD called Family Jewels, and it was one disc of
Not proud at all.
Well, but yeah, it's still iconic.
Yeah, you're right though.
But it was two DVDs of music videos. One with the original singer Bon Scott, and the second one with Brian Johnson on vocals. Well, I was 6 years old at the time, and I remember watching the first disc with Bon Scott, and from there, like, seeing Angus Young jamming out. I know there's this one song, the video called "It's a Long Way to the Top." And just seeing him bang his head there while they're driving in the parade, that's like, you know what, that's what I want to do. Like, that's what inspired me to pick up the guitar at that age. But as when I became an AC/DC fan, I remember seeing this album cover of Power Ridge, and it was of Angus Young, and he's like that in his hand. He doesn't have hands; it's just electrical wiring. But I listened to it, and it's just there's something about the tone and the guitar sound that is and especially the vocals that, you know, stands out a lot more than all the other albums, in my opinion. Like, it just sounds like a real heavy, you know, like AC/DC album. Like, they don't fuck around, and like I said, you know, like Malcolm and Angus Young's writing guitar riffs and that, you know, it's just always been, you know, good listening. You know, growing up, you know, like 6, 7 years old, running around the yard playing football and stuff. So yeah, that would be my number 3.
You gotta give credit where credit is due. I'm not a big AC/DC fan, but I respect them.
Best AC/DC song is "Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution."
Nice.
I like.
That's a great awesome song.
I forgot the name of the song. I'm just gonna keep going. Number 3 for me is Wall of Sound, Marty Friedman. That's where it clicked for me, and I said, I'm gonna be like this guy because he's just so good. But it's not just Marty either. Like his female bass player Kiyoshi, not only is she freaking hot as hell, she can rip. She can rip like all those bass lines, even from before, like on all the other albums, like Loudspeaker, because I don't think she was on that. But dude, she rips all the way around, and it's not even about Marty anymore. It's about fucking Kiyoshi. But like everybody on the album is so fucking talented and good at what they do. The drummer they call him Charge. I don't know his real name. I want to know his real name. Maybe I'll ask him. But dude.
He knows him.
Yeah, they're
Dude.
friends.
Dude. Seriously, Ed, you need to get into Charge, because Charge is the amount of energy he puts on like every freaking day.
Like, who is he?
On tour. He's Marty's drummer.
Oh, okay.
Dude, he's stupid good, and so is Marty. And the whole lineup. I think this lineup, Marty's lineup for this album, is like equal to or better than the Rust in Peace lineup. That's what I think. Because I mean, Nick Menza's great. Fuck yeah. I'm not saying like Charge is better, but Charge is pretty fucking good. And Marty was in Rust in Peace, but dude, there's so many things that Marty does better now without Megadeth.
Yeah.
Alright, we're on. Where are we on?
Number 2.
Oh, yeah,
On
2.
2?
Yeah.
Alright, number 2. Ride the Lightning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should have chimed in.
And to be honest, it's not my favorite Metallica album, but I think it's the album that means the most to me. And you can't even see my face.
We've been here for so fucking long.
Scooch in.
Yeah, you need to come this way.
There, we're good now.
There we go.
Nice.
Okay, so the reason why it means so much to me is because it's the album that introduced me to Metallica and introduced me to my passion for drums. Now, like, I didn't start playing drums until, like, my late teens, but, like, all my life, until then.
3 years ago.
I've always wanted to play drums because of Ride the Lightning. Like, it's funny because, like, my dad didn't even have the actual album. He had, like, a burnt disc with the album on it.
Nice.
And, yeah, I don't know where he got it. He just had it. And, listening to that, like, it was just amazing. And, like, I even had, like, plastic hangers, and I'd, like, bang on the table, like, pretending to play drums, and it was awesome. And yeah, this album means the most to me of all the Metallica albums.
I remember like adding more. The reason I had so many plays on my iTunes was because I would listen to those songs over and over and try to hear something new every time. It actually helped me develop my ears, like in terms of hearing different parts in music. Because I would try to, like, I would listen to it and I'd be like, well, what's the bass doing this time? And I would listen only for the bass.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, what are the drums doing this time? And I would only listen to the drums, and I'd be like, what's the left guitar doing? And I'd listen only to that one. Or what's the right guitar doing? What's going on in the solo? What is he doing vocally? Like, Jesus. What is his like vocal? What are his vocal harmonies? Like, what's he doing there? And I would just listen over and over and try to dissect everything that was going on. And yeah, that like, and also like, I wanted to be a drummer too when I was a kid. And that was probably the album that made me want to be a drummer. But I also didn't want to just be a drummer. I also wanted to be James Hetfield. I wanted to sing, and I wanted to play guitar, and I wanted to be Cliff Burton, and I wanted to play. I wanted to play the.
Wants to
like,
be in Metallica's
I
ass.
wanted to be a bass player. Like I wanted to be everything, and it wasn't until years later, and I learned that I have no talent, so I play bass.
Bass players
Basses
everywhere.
are still cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my number two, it has to go with Black Sabbath. We sold our soul for rock and roll. This was another one that I listened to at a very young age when I got introduced to AC/DC. Because when I got introduced to AC/DC, boom, like from there, I remember I started listening to bands like Maiden, Priest. But my dad, he had this album on cassette. We sold our soul for rock and roll. And I'm a very big Black Sabbath fan, and this was another album too that helped my chops, wanting to be a drummer and a guitarist both at the same time, and there's just something about it like that I really enjoyed listening to. It's there's a lot of jazz influence in the songs, and it was just another good eye opener. Like getting introduced to rock and roll and heavy metal, and it took me for a ride. And still to this day, one of my favorite albums, from Black Sabbath. Even though it's not a studio album, it's just an album that has, like their best hits, I guess you can say. So yeah, that'll be number two.
Number two for me is the Afterman by Coheed and Cambria. I know these guys don't agree with me, but that's fine. I don't care. But the whole album, I think that's the only album that I play in my truck constantly. constantly. I think the only time I ever take it out is when these guys are in the car and I know we're done with it, so I'll put on something else. But the Afterman, I could listen to that record over and over and over and over. There's so many different substances and different colors like that come with it, and then along with like the story that it backs up is like, it's just so interesting to me. And Coheed and Cambria is definitely like my number one favorite band of all time, and they're all just such talented musicians. Like Travis, the lead player, Josh, the drummer, Zach, Mike, their old bassist,
Claudio.
and yeah, Claude. Claude's the main reason I play an Explorer, to be honest, because he's just fucking great, and his voice. I mean, you don't have to agree if you don't agree.
No, I think he's a great guitarist, and I think he's a good singer. I just those high pitched really tenor voices like him and Geddy Lee. There's just something about him that are not appealing to me.
Yeah. Immediately he looked down. No. But yeah, Coheed and Cambria, that album, or the Afterman, is just so tasty. It's tasty.
Yeah.
It also goes for like the Overkill guy. I think he's a good singer. Yeah, but his voice just, I don't agree with it. I don't like that kind of thrash where they do like the squealing, like that.
I mean, it's kind of distinct though, but
high pitched falsetto voices.
yeah.
Oh, like, oh, nice.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's okay. Go.
So number one, I'm excited for
one.
this.
Number one.
Also Ride the Lightning. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Number one, Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. And the reason why this is number one is because Ride the Lightning was actually number one, and I saw his list, so I switched it so he wouldn't get pissed. But we all had it in our top three or whatever. But yeah, Houses of the Holy, the reason why I love this album so much is because I usually associate happiness with it. Like whenever I listen to it, like I feel so happy and it's awesome. And like all the other albums, like they're like associated with like depression and anger and stuff. But this one, like it's honestly like the only album in this top 10 list that I provided, that brings me happiness, and it's awesome.
You know what? You say depression and anger, but there's also a lot of growth in those albums for you too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as angry and as depressed as you were, they helped you develop as who you are, you know? And they help you develop as a musician too. Mm-hmm. Where I feel like happiness is probably the least important emotion to have, because that's just
natural.
That's just easy. It's easy, and it doesn't help you grow. Whereas all the other emotions help you grow, in some way or another. Like happiness is just complacency, whereas all the other emotions force you to go out of your comfort zone and they force you to grow.
Yeah.
Essentially.
No, well, I kind of relate to what Ed is saying because I remember when I went to UIL for classical guitar state, and I remember like right after the competition, like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna listen to Houses of the Holy, and I listened to it, and you know it was just good jams. Like you know it was put me in a good mood, knowing that I actually placed, and brought home the gold. So yeah. All right, so my number one. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Ride the lightning.
Peace Sells, But Who's Buying by Megadeth. That album, like, I've been addicted to it for I don't know how long. It's just, yeah, man. It's just like you know, like Chris Poland, you know, the first lead guitarist, and Gar Samuelson. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know about this, but I know that they were in a jazz fusion band. I never heard of their music, but you know, both of those guys, they really had a huge talent for playing, you know, jazz, and ever since they, you know, got into the band with Dave, like their stuff, and like, you know, Dave Mustaine's and Dave Ellison's stuff, you know, like put together, and it made Peace Sells, and like, you know, and I listened to it, and it's a very technical album in my opinion too, and especially the solos, like, you know, like there's been times, you know, like I think when Justin says that, you know, I'm gonna re-listen to this to see what the guitar does or what the drums do, because like, you know, like I close my eyes, listen to it, and I can hear 1, 2, 3, 4, and like when I just listen to Gar Samuelson's drum playing, it's like, you know, that motherfucker, you know, he knows how to play, and just like how he can do those triplets like with one foot, it's pretty insane. And Chris Poland, like if you guys actually take the time and listen to like what he does, it's so weird because his playing, like the solos sound so off and weird, but in a good way. And it's just like you know, that album in my opinion probably has to, you know, take home the trophy as like, you know, like the thrash, the metal, the epitome of that stuff, horse shit, whatever. But yeah, that's my number one, and you know, a huge love for Megadeth and that album.
I was gonna ask that. Do you like? I'm surprised you don't have any like Chris Poland solo stuff on your list.
Oh, like as far as guitar solos?
No, like just like albums, because he's put out albums like of his solo stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I know he was doing some stuff with Nick Menza before he passed away, and I was actually listening to that too. And it was, you know, it's really good too. I think it was OHM. I think that's the only Chris Poland stuff I've ever listened to. But I know he has some stuff like in the '90s that I really need to give a good listen. And Chris Poland, he actually came back into the band to help out Dave Mustaine. You know, record an album in 2005 called The System Has Failed, and that's another, you know, good album too. I like to listen to. Just yeah, and just for like, you know, the guitar solo work too. Like it's awesome.
All right, my number one,
Kobe.
Yeah. Number one, Cody. Good Apollo 1. Anger. There was so much anger in that record that it helped me get through a lot of hard times, and it's just there's so many different influences from like old school 70s rock, like Chicago, and you know, jazz stuff that they brought to the table with Good Apollo 1, but there's also so much anger and emotion in it that it's like I connected with it instantly, and that's much like the Afterman. I can listen to that album over and over and over and over. I can never stop. Those are usually like my go-tos, like either in the shower or at the gym or fucking in the car, something, you know what I mean? Like those are my go-to songs to play. But
do you guys listen to music in the shower?
Fuck yeah,
dude.
Sometimes.
That'd be a long shower, dude.
I don't think I've ever done it.
fuck yeah, dude, all the time. It's good. It's good thinking music. Like, or like not Go to Apollo 1, but if you have like, say like Damnation, you just put on Damnation, you sit in the shower, you end up like shitting your pants and crying in the shower because like it's so depressing. Anyway, yeah, dude.
He's one of those never nudes.
Yeah. But yeah, Good Apollo 1. It's so angry that I love it. It's just so great. I think Welcome Home was the first riff I ever learned on my old school acoustic guitar. No. Coheed. But that was my first one, and since then, it's just kind of pushed me as a musician to kind of maybe try to write like that, maybe on my own accord because these guys don't like it. But so, some things I know they like, so maybe I'll push there.
I'll
But
probably try to listen to it.
no,
Okay.
don't.
Or no,
You're not gonna like it.
the one you. Wow. Okay.
Okay,
not
well,
gonna
we're
like
done. Right?
I'm pretty
We're
sure you're
done?
not gonna like it because you don't like the other one.
Charger, or what's his name?
Oh, Charge.
Bye.
Yeah, Marty.
Thanks for watching,
Archangel
guys.
A.D.
Thanks for
See you
watching.
guys in the next.
See you in junior
Bro,
high.